Hello, my name is Michael Rochen from Zurich, Switzerland. I'm the president of Allotex in Boston, and I would like to share with you our technology related to presbyopia correction. We all know the situation of getting presbyopia if you reach the age of 40, 45. And for most people, it actually has a couple of new experiences about our vision. First of all, if you start losing your near vision situation, you have to deal with additional vision correction. Usually, these are spectacle readers, and a lot of people also consider wearing those readers as a cosmetic issue, and therefore surgical solutions are of interest for many patients out there in the world to have a compromise for their presbyopia and having a solution aside from spectacles and readers. Correction of presbyopia, many attempts have been made. Many solutions are addressing the problem of billions of patients, literally. And we would like to share with you about the history of how presbyopia correction has been involved as a corneal solution. Going back to the 49s, Joseph Barraker actually used human donor tissue to do refractive corrections. And later in the 80s and 90s, AMO was using epikeratophakia to correct myopia, hyperopia, and other refractive disorders. However, a big learning at that time was, and it was due to the technology available at this time, is the biocompatibility, the safety was quite high. There was high adaptation of the tissue within the cornea. However, at this time, they couldn't control well the process of making refractive corrections, refractive lenticles as corneal inlays from human donor tissue. Now, that drove the industry and the manufacturers towards thinking about synthetic inlays. And a lot of attempts have been made to use synthetic inlays made of various materials to implant them as corneal inlays into the cornea. And as expected, they could improve the visual quality. They could improve the optical performance of such corneal inlays. However, what we learned, especially on a longer term basis, is that putting a piece of plastic into the cornea usually also leads to long term situations of inflammatory reactions. And from those inflammatory reactions, it can trigger various biocompatibility problems. Now, we from Allotex actually have kind of reinvented the technology founded back in the 50s and took all the clinical experience that was generated of all these almost 70 years of using allograft tissue. And aside, we also used new technologies in shaping the lenticles, doing quality control, and therefore we are able to provide the vision quality that we are used from synthetic implants with the biocompatibility and the safety known from human donor tissue. Let me share with you briefly how this works. The patient is placed under a femtosecond laser. It's a standard femtosecond laser used for LASIK procedures. A standard LASIK flap of about 110, 120 microns is created. And then a small lenticle with a diameter of about 2.5 millimeters and a thickness of about 20 microns is implanted into the interface of the flap and the corneal tissue. The lenticle itself is made of human donor tissue that was sterilized before implantation and is available with a shelf life of 2 years. The procedure you can see here is centering on the middle of the cornea towards the pupil center, and this allows the patient to gain near visual acuity similar with a smart contact lens or a smart contact lens inlay based on human tissue. So in the schematic scene is, we have the cornea, we're putting in the inlay, and this changes the thickness of the cornea within that inch, leading to an optical improvement, an optical adaptation of the cornea, and therefore for improvement in near vision. How does it work? On the left side, you see an example of presbyopic patients. So usually if it's an emmetropic presbyope, which means he can see extremely well in the far distance, however, he's lost his near vision acuity because of the presbyopia of losing the accommodation. Now, after implantation, and we are targeting here only on the non-dominant eye, we're increasing the field of view, the depth of field of that eye. And due to the summation process between the dominant and the non-dominant eye, we can provide excellent vision at all distances from far, intermediate, and near vision. So far, this is in theory. We could complete already our phase 2 clinical trials in Europe, which were performed on 5 study sites across the European continent. And we compared the pre-op versus post-op visual acuity at distance, intermediate, near. And you can see patients do not lose their distance vision quality, and they're gaining significantly in the intermediate distance range. And of course, as was intended, they get significant gain of up to 5 lines in the near visual acuity. Our innovation, intellectual property, is around the processing, the tissue processing itself to make it sterilized, storageable, and the shelf life up to 2 years under room conditions. It's a scalable process, so we can make many lenticles out of one donor cornea. We allow precise shaping with excimer laser technology, and our metrology technology allows precise quality control of each lenticle before implantation. We learned a lot about treatment planning and treatment outcome prediction, and of course, we do have issued patents covering this technology and the scalability of this process. Quickly on the economics, as I mentioned, we're taking one donor cornea in. We kind of slice and dice these corneas up to about 100 transform presbyopia lenses. And this leads to a cost of goods of around $75 with a target price of around $1,000. And therefore, we are scalable with high margins in the product. So in summary, Allotex was founded in 2014. The founders are very experienced with multiple exits in the ophthalmic space. We got in the Series A funding of about 18 million in 2017. We have completed our phase 1-2 European clinical study trials. We have demonstrated safety and efficacy of the allogenic tissue for the treatment of presbyopia. And now we are seeking for an 80 million Series B funding to progress our US clinical trials. Allotex is providing, therefore, a platform technology around allogenic materials for ophthalmology. And we have 2 products we're currently focusing on. One is, which I shared with you, the Transform Cornea Inlay for presbyopia. The other product is Allotex. They are natural serum allogenic eye drops for dry eye. And we're hoping to present that in March at the OIS Dry Eye Innovation Showcase. Thank you very much for your interest.